Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about Nintendo and the Switch 2 games variable pricing stuff that they've been talking about for the last couple days. We're going to be on Mobile Syrup today, and this is written by Bradley Shankar. Thank you for the article. It'll be linked down in the description if you would like to check it out for yourself. The title of it goes, Nintendo confirms Switch 2 games will have a variable pricing. The company has elaborated on why Mariokartworld World costs more than the other Switch 2 games like Donkey Kong Bonanza. And honestly, I feel like the problem I have with variable pricing is that I agree with variable pricing on the basis of the $60 base, but it's no longer that base. The problem with the variable pricing, in my opinion, at least from my perspective, is that I understand that bigger games should probably cost more. The problem is that costing more shouldn't be almost $100 because I just feel like that shouldn't be the case, especially if you're going to be putting microtransactions in it as well for other games. And it's also why Nintendo specifically, I'm kind of okay with it, only because Nintendo doesn't really do the whole microtransaction stuff on their mainstay games. Now, they've done that before, obviously, and they have this, and Nintendo has horrible pricing because there's, like, Breath of the Wild is still full price, for instance, and it came out, like, I feel like 10 billion years ago. So they're bad in that sense, but you can argue Breath of the Wild is still worth full price, technically. Like, it's still a huge game and you still get a lot of content out of it. So I'm more inclined to trust Nintendo a little bit when it comes to them truly believing what games they make will cost what. The problem I have with it is that Nintendo's basically the only company I trust with that, because other companies will just say it costs $90 and then put a battle pass in it and microtransactions in it and a cash shop in it, and it's a single player game, like a Ubisoft thing or something like that. So, like, that's the problem I have with it. But this is going to be a interesting time, I'm going to say. Before we get deeper into the article, I'd like to remind everyone, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and once we do, I'll be doing a Q&A video, so if you're interested in that, please subscribe. Nintendo says it will adapt variable pricing for games on the Switch 2. Speaking to the Washington Post, Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser was asked about the higher US $79.99, about $113 Canadian, price tag for Mario Kart World, but the $69.99 US dollars and about $100 Canadian cost of Donkey Kong Bonanza. Official Canadian pricing has been yet written. It's true. And me being Canadian, having a game cost literally over $100 is insane. Now, to be fair, video games in Canada specifically have been getting really expensive recently, and I would say in the past, give or take 10 years, but it's starting to get ridiculous. Like, I feel like some video game corporations don't understand that most people, I feel like the majority of people aren't willing to spend $100 on video games here in Canada. Now, to be fair, we are a small market, I assume, compared to like the US or Asia. So I understand that they probably don't care overall, but it's going to bleed on to other things, or especially considering how they're reaching almost $100 in the US. And I don't understand how they can think that that's okay, but they're probably just blind with money. What you see right there is variable pricing, Bowser told the Washington Post. We'll look at each game, really look at the development that's gone into the game, the breadth and the depth of the gameplay, and if you will, the durability over time and the repeatable of gameplay experiences. Those are all factors, and there's many more that go into consideration of what is the right price point for the game. So I think that you can anticipate that there will be a variable pricing, and we haven't set a benchmark. Now, I will say I agree with everything they say about that Doug Bowser says up until the very end. They have set a benchmark, and that is $80. The benchmark of a game that is going to be a big game is $80. So people are going to see Donkey Kong Bonanza and say it doesn't have as much content as Mario Kart. So they are setting a benchmark. It's just a different type of benchmark. And honestly, I feel like first-party Nintendo games like Donkey Kong Bonanza, I feel like some people will not buy it simply because it's going to be assumed not going to be as good as something like Mario Kart World. Now, what I truly think they are actually doing is that they don't think Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to sell as much as something like Mario Kart World, which is why that one is cheaper. I truly think the reason that Mario Kart World is $79.99 US is simply because they think they can charge for that. And the reason they think that Donkey Kong Bonanza is $69 $69.99 is because they don't think they could sell it at $79.99. And that's simply what I think is the truth. I don't necessarily disbelieve them when it comes to like the whole gameplay experiences and stuff like that, but that's, I feel like, the true meaning. They don't think they can sell Donkey Kong Bonanza at $80, but they think they can sell Mario Kart World at $80 because Mario Kart has a much bigger branding image than Donkey Kong right now. And I think that's just the simple fact of it. Like, I assume the next Mario game and the next Zelda game is going to be $80. Easily. Historically, breadth and depth of gameplay hasn't mattered when it comes to the price of standard AAA games. Instead, companies have generally adhered to the same manufacturer's suggested retail price, MSRP, for current gen games on PS5 and Xbox Series X/X. That's been $69.99 US or $89.99 Canadian. Meanwhile, almost all Switch games cost $59.99 and $79.99. Yep, that's true. Although Nintendo did experiment with $69.99 with Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, yes. At the same time, it just said we determined that the suggested retail price for any Nintendo product on a case-by-case basis. And honestly, I do, like I said in the beginning, I do inherently agree with this. I don't, but the problem is that there is a basis, and that is the $60 price tag. And I guess nowadays it's $70, but I just don't think these games should be priced at that, because honestly, it doesn't seem reasonable for these games to cost that much, considering how, especially in the AAA industry, there seems to be so much money being poured into everything. And you can argue there's like, oh, they just want to make more money so they can pay people more. Yes, but the problem is we all know the money isn't going there. They're not going to the devs, they're going to the shareholders. And that's the only reason the prices are going up, because they've bled dry all the other options. Because people are getting sick and tired of microtransactions and battle passes, at least for single player games, for the most part. And they've also realized that they can no longer have live service games all the time, because it's just not possible. So they're increasing the price of the game. The problem is that for the most part, AAA games are getting worse. But while continually raising the price and having more microtransactions in them, which is why I think generally most people are really against the price increase for almost all of these things. But the exception is Nintendo. Nintendo games haven't been really a microtransaction filled nightmare, and they do really bring the almost older school game design philosophy of just being very good video games. You can disagree with some, obviously. I disagree with a lot of things that Nintendo does, but when it comes to just purely thinking about video games, they make pretty good video games. And so I'm kind of okay with it, though I still think it's too much money. I still think they should be talking about like bringing games up to the $70 price tag at the maximum. Because, for instance, like this post says, $113 for Canada is insane. I'm not buying a game that's $113. I don't care how many hours of entertainment it is. Like, I'm just not doing that. That is not, in my opinion, a good idea to do when I can buy arguably like almost 7 indie games. And I think that's the real difference, is that variable pricing has existed outside of the AAA industry for a long time. It's just AAA games always cost the $60 for such a long time, and now the $70. And the problem is with the AAA gaming industry specifically, with the Nintendo exception, most of the games have gotten worse. And the AA industry has really kicked into gear, I would say. But Nintendo, it's hard to say, because like I don't want to be easy on Nintendo, because you know they make really a lot of weird decisions. But if you just look at the pure thing of they make good video games, the variable pricing makes sense for Nintendo, because their games are very different game by game basis. Now, I still think the heavy hitters are still going to be the full price games. I don't see a mainline Mario game or mainline Zelda game ever being under the $60 price tag. But other like the spin-off Mario games, maybe. Who knows? Like they could, but I honestly don't see it happening. But I think it's an interesting idea, at least. Many likely assume Nintendo would adopt the same pricing for Switch 2 games, given that this also aligns with the cost of the PS5 and Xbox Series X games. After all, the Switch 2's power still doesn't quite match of those consoles. Unfortunately, though, Nintendo Switch 2 games like Donkey Kong Bonanza will probably cost close to $100 in Canada, while the likes of Mario Kart World could possibly reach $110 due to conversion rates. Yes. I mean, that's the biggest problem, at least for me specifically in Canada, is that AAA games cost almost $100 now. Like, they've always cost a lot. Games have always cost more here than the $60 price tag in the US has only ever been in the US right? But even then, games like, okay, so a AAA game would be like $70 to $80, and like, okay, but now games really are becoming $100 investments, it feels like, and it's just not really, it's just not good. Mobile Syrup has reached out for Nintendo of Canada for official Canadian pricing for Switch 2 games and will update the story. Okay, good. In the meantime, the company has confirmed that Switch 2 pre-orders have been delayed in Canada. Yep, in alignment with the US. Yes, I did see that as well. I think, as I was saying earlier, I am totally okay with variable pricing. It's just, I think the variable pricing should be based around the $60 mark and not the, it feels like $80 mark now, because games are just costing too much for a lot of people. And I understand, I'm not saying the devs shouldn't be rewarded for the work they're doing, but I also think that maybe, I don't know, it's like it's a tough situation, because I feel like having games be more expensive means people are not going to buy as many. And Nintendo might be the exception. Like I said, Nintendo might be the exception, but I'm scared for the rest of the industry, because you cannot follow what Nintendo does. Nintendo is a different beast, and they have basically their own ecosystem, and you just can't fight them. So I feel like, in general, I don't like variable pricing. For Nintendo specifically, I'm not inherently against it, because Nintendo does, like, if you buy a game from Nintendo and it's one of their main games, there isn't a hidden cost to it. You know, you're lucky to get DLC most of the time if you want more content. If you want to spend more for more content. Like, most Nintendo games don't even get DLC. They just send the game out and you buy the game. Like, most games don't have microtransactions at all for Nintendo, with like some exceptions, like maybe like Pokemon Unite and like their mobile games. But even then, that's not the main Nintendo. Those are generally third-party developers. So I trust Nintendo enough to be okay with the variable pricing. It's just, the problem is that I don't know. I hope that other companies don't follow this. But this is also another big thing of where, like, funny enough, other than Nintendo are basically the only AAA games that I play nowadays, because all the other AAA games kind of suck, and all the indie games and AA games are just like better, especially with the pricing that they do. You know, like a AA game, if it's a $40 AA game, that's expensive for a lot of indie games, right? So it feels like the pricing is just going more and more indie for like this, because most people are just sick and tired, and most people are just playing Fortnite or free to play games. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes for Nintendo. It's interesting to see not only it goes for Nintendo, but if they can set the example, and then how, if other companies try to copy them, if it even works. Because I don't think they can copy them, honestly. I just don't think it works like that. But we'll see, really. We'll see. I'm okay with Nintendo doing it. A little bit, at least. I'm like 60%, maybe 70% okay with Nintendo doing it. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed it. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Once I do, I'll be doing a Q&A video if you're interested in that. If you're interested in other things I do a podcast called Two Buds One Podcast, if you'd like to check that out in the channel as well. If you want to follow me on other things, I have a Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and a Threads. Comment down below if you'd like to see if you guys think this is a good idea or not for variable pricing. But other than that, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye, everyone.